Hi, this is Glenda. Following on, if you didn't watch chapter 1, this is chapter 2 with our imaginary new crafter, and she's made her first card and now she wants to do another one, but this time she wants to add more dimension and maybe make it vintage. So we've come up with a new card. All we have is the very basic kit that we had last time. We put down our mat to work on, and this time we are going to add some white glue. I'm not necessarily counting that as a purchase because most or many households have some PVA glue somewhere, whether it's in the workshop or whatever. If you've got just any PVA glue, white glue, something like that, probably not school glue, it may not be as strong, but whatever white glue you've got, try it. If not, buy some. I quite like this Scotch Quick Dry. I also like the Tombow Multi, was it Mono Multi or something, but basically a white glue. So that's our new purchase for today. The other thing that we want is some lace. So it could be a case of raiding the sewing box, raiding Grandma's sewing box, going to the op shop. That's where this came from. I got this huge ball of it for $5 or something, or it might have been less than that even, but it was massive, which I've since rolled on a card. It could be just a little card of lace that you can pick up in the $2 shops again, but you want some lace, because that's a good way just to add some dimension and a pretty border without any special tools. Let me catch my breath and think what it is I'm doing, and I need my cardstock. So we want a base. Oops, it's a real burn folder. Sorry, a makeshift burn folder. I'm trying to stick to the rules, and we'll just put that aside. And I'll just cut a mat off screen so you don't have to watch that painful process again. And it's just going to be about 1/8 of an inch smaller all around, just a little mat this time. Okay, so I've cut that. It's not really the mat, it's the top layer that we're going to put on the base. We're not actually matting it as such this time. So next step is put those aside, and we want some just normal photocopy paper. Sorry, I'm dropping everything. Obviously my surface is not clean, which doesn't matter. Roughly cut some squares. We want 6. Cut a bit off that. And we're going to fold these in half, and a little over halfway, like that, so that you end up with 6 layers. There's nothing precise about it. We're going to approximately cut a little circle, well, it's a 1/6 of a circle, and then cut a wiggle out of it. There's our first one. I know it doesn't look remotely like a petal, but by the time we scrunch it and spray it and everything, nobody's going to know how bad my flower cutting is, which is why I have punches. But our new crafter doesn't have a punch, so This one I'm trying to make a bit smaller, perhaps cut a bigger bit out of it. I'll just put these up so I can shake all the scraps off the sheet when I'm done. Don't be afraid to vary the shapes and see what happens. It's only a bit of paper at the end of the day. And then we want some petals, leaves as well, so just roughly cut the leaf shape. And I'll just put those aside, and I'll just get rid of this scrap. Okay. I want some size variation. That's probably not too bad. Now, what I've got in my spray bottle today instead of water is really strong tea, and then it wasn't giving me a dark enough colour, so I added in some instant coffee. And the disadvantage of this is you will get a bit of a coffee smell on your card. Yeah, it may wear off. Obviously, if you buy or make a spray with ink and that, it's not going to have the odour, but this is virtually free. So we're just going to squirt these, probably not too heavily because they do tear quite easily. You want to do both sides. And we're just going to scrunch them up. And unfold them. Sorry, the battery went flat. I've just finished unscrunching them and wiped up my work surface. Now we're going to take our green washable marker and scribble it on the board again. And I've got a different water spray because there's coffee in my other one. And just take our leaves, gooey mess. This is one where you'll get dirty hands, but that's part of the card making process. Just do the same thing where you scrunch them up and unscrunch them and put them aside to dry. wipe up the ink. Oh, trying to put the wrong lid on the wrong container. Never works. Okay, so take our piece of card and our flower stamp. This is a different one out of the same set, but I mean it could equally be the same one as the previous card. It's just a flower stamp. So we're going to, this is the brown washable marker, or water-based marker. It doesn't have to be washable as such, but I think most water-based ones are. We're just going to colour over the stamp like this. It doesn't show up very well on the acrylic stamp, but it is colouring it. And then we're just going to stamp randomly over the cardstock. Sorry, it does take longer than inking up with a stamp pad, but our new crafter doesn't have a brown stamp pad yet. Obviously this could be done in green or something as well. It doesn't have to be brown, but I'm going with the vintage look. Make sure some of your stamping goes off the page. And keep turning it. Do a bit in here. And just take a washcloth. Okay, now we're going to take this same coffee mixture and our little paintbrush and just paint it on, just lightly, because this is a washable or a water-based marker. The stamping is going to smudge, but all we're doing is making a background, because instead of a piece of white cardstock we've now got a vintage floral. Okay, so give that a bit of a wave, put it aside to dry. This time we want our pearls. Some sets do come with some slightly bigger pearls. I'd say use whatever the biggest is in the set you've got, because these are a tiny bit small that I've used, but they're what's here. A brown marker, which something to do with the cheap factor. It looks a little bit purple, but it's all good. Just colouring the pearls. Ideally you want to let this dry a bit, but okay, we'll let it dry a little bit more and we'll assemble these flowers. I think I am going to have to dry these with the heat gun. For this sample card I did let them dry completely naturally and had my lunch. You could, if you haven't got a heat gun, which we're assuming our new crafter doesn't, You could perhaps put them in the sun for a little while, you could put them near a heater, you could use a hairdryer, but you know, as I say, I just let these air dry, but for the sake of the video, because I don't want to sit here waiting for them to dry before I finish filming, I'm just going to dry them. Okay, they're not completely dry, but they're dry enough for the next bit. So we take our white glue and we're just going to layer them, so pick sort of what layers go together best. I probably should have made some of these a bit smaller. Just layer them up, push them down in the middle, and put them aside again. Give this a bit of a wave, it's still quite wet. Okay, I'm just going to take my piece of lace and put it across somewhere in the middle. And I'm just going to use some sticky tape. I figure every household has sticky tape, so I'm not even adding it to the list. So just make sure it's lined up before you stick the second bit down. And get the double-sided tape. Edges. And then again, because our card is wet, we're going to put some across the middle. It's very wet, we might put two across the middle. This is, oh, I know what I completely forgot to do, that I should have done before I put the coffee on it, because I might tear it now, but I wanted to distress the edges. So you're just going to take the scissors and open them up and just rub them along the edge. Now, because this is now wet, it's even more likely to tear. But what we really just want to do is rough it up and then when you add the coffee it's going to seep in a bit more and be a bit darker on the edges, but I blew that, didn't I? Never mind. All new crafters have to learn that things go wrong. And of course it's not easy with all the sticky on the back. Crafters like to do this because it's supposed to make things look aged, and that's why we call it distress, because we stress out our card. But you don't need a fancy tool, you can use just your scissors, because all those tools are is a blade in a plastic holder. And normally I use one, but our new crafter doesn't have one yet. Okay. Now we stick it down. Okay, now take our pearls and put them in the middle of our flowers. And just work out where on the card you want to put your flowers. These can be fluffed up a bit more, just use your fingers. As I say, mine is still a bit damp, but just scrunch. I keep hearing the garage door going and wondering what my husband's doing. I guess I'm just a sticky nose. Okay, work out where you want your leaves. Get the white glue again because this is still damp, so the white glue will work better. And just push it down a bit. Make sure it's really sticking. And there we have it. Vintage, distressed, no real special tools, only made with white cardstock. So hopefully our new crafter will be happy with that. And since she's imaginary, she's absolutely thrilled. So thank you for watching, and we'll see what comes up next.